months ago, I moved to this beautiful place in northern Quebec. Why, you say? Why? I'm gonna tell you. It's because I like my short stays in Nunavik so much that I decided to make this living situation a little bit more permanent. Which is why we are now 2 months in living to our new place in northern Quebec. Of course, I had to move my studio from Montreal to here, so I kind of have to show you an updated studio tour, which is what this video is going to be all about. My goal right now is to be able to create a second series of northern landscapes based on the boreal forest instead of the tundra. I'm still experimenting right now. I still haven't found a way to do it, but I'm working on it. By the way, if you want to check out my first series of northern landscape paintings, you can check them out on my website. The link is in the description below. These are paintings that I made while I was in Nunavik or inspired by pictures that I took in Nunavik. I now sell fine art quality prints. What does this mean? It means basically that you could hang these paintings in a studio and they would fit perfectly in there. So they're so high quality, they're so pretty, and if you get them now, there's still time to get them before the holidays. They make for a perfect gift. And if you use the code SALE10, you get an extra 10% discount on anything you buy on my website. And right now, everything is already at a 24% discount. So this would make a total of 34% discount for you for the first 10 people buying from my shop. Sales are open in Canada and in the US. I haven't had time to use this studio as much as I would have wanted so far because I didn't expect it, but there's so many things to do here. There's sports, there's social gatherings, there's crafts, there's a lot of things. So I still created some nice things here, some paintings, some sketches, different crafts, which I'm going to tell you more about a little bit later. But now the studio is all set up and it's ready to be shown. So I hope you're ready for a tour.
So this is the studio. Initially, I was supposed to be a bedroom, but since we have 2 bedrooms and we don't need to, we decided to transform this room, which is the biggest room, in an office and studio. This place came with a little bit of furniture, so it came with beds and with this dresser and this desk. There was a bed in here, right there, that we moved to the other room. This desk was downstairs, we moved it up. Our boxes were moved by a moving company, so I was a little bit anxious to see how well our boxes held on. Some stuff got some scratch marks, but fortunately, most of our stuff was in good condition. My art supplies got shaken a little bit, so I found some new color too all over one of my boxes, but otherwise all my ceramic plates and glass jars were all intact, which is what I was hoping for. Fortunately, I got some help setting up from this random guy who is going to live with me now. This room is going to be an office for him during the weekday, and I'm going to claim it back for art making on the evenings and weekends. This was a good workout. I have to say that even though it's fall/winter, it got pretty hot in there. We're not used to live in a well-insulated house. Our apartment in Montreal is very old and you can feel the drafts of cold air coming from the windows in the winter. Even though we heat the place, our apartment is always super cold during the winter. So wearing a cami, shorts, and being barefoot would have been unthinkable. After the furniture was set up, then came the fun part of deciding where to put all of my art materials. At some point, we had to take a break for the mandatory inspection, which we passed with flying colors, even though the inspector ran away at the end. Back to the studio tour. When you come in, you see this dresser in front of you, and I don't need it to put clothes, so it's the perfect place to put all my art supplies. So let me show you. So in here, I put my sketchbooks on one side. I put some higher end paper here. I have my very handy roll of tissue paper. And on this side, I placed some really cheap watercolor paper. This is paper that I use whenever I want to swatch colors before I commit to putting them on a big painting or something that I want. You know, I make sure my colors are good before I apply them. So this is what I use them for. Then here, this is my acrylic and oil station, mostly oil though, you'll see why. So here I have my water soluble oil set,
which I have only used once or twice, I think. But since knowing how to use oils, I have never used them. So I should use them again soon. We'll see. These are my regular oils that I love so much now. Oh, I love them so much. This is my solvent. This is some oil stuff. This is some palette paper, super useful when you paint with oils. This is some canvas paper. And then this is the acrylic paint stuff. I only brought very minimal supplies, as you can see, because I don't really paint with acrylics. I only really use them to create underpaintings when I paint with oils. So I just brought the colors that I use when I create underpaintings. So I have some yellow ochre, but it's almost empty. So next time I go to Montreal, I will buy some and bring it back here. I have some white, some black, and some gessos right here. That's pretty much it. Then, in the drawer, we have some filming gear. Here I have my microphone case, my microphone thing that I can use when I go outside. Just, it helps with the wind apparently, but I have not used it, I don't think. And just like some things that I can use to put either my camera in or some art supplies in whenever I travel. I have my pop filter that I use when I make voiceovers. I don't use it very often, but I used it for this video, for the section you saw before this studio tour. Then on the second drawer, just random stuff. Some more cases. These are for brushes. Then these are my husband's notebooks, some batteries, random knickknacks, basically. Then we have a Bluetooth speaker here, very useful for the ambience. And on top we have some papers. So watercolor paper that I bought in Italy. I can't wait to use this. I have some handmade paper that I bought in Montreal. More handmade paper. I have my Yupo paper here, some watercolor paper from Fabriano. More papers from Fabriano. Some Strathmore watercolor paper. And my cutting mat, very useful. But I hear you asking, but Laurence, where do you put your tripod? I'm gonna tell you, it's right here. In this corner, there's a nice place for a tall tripod. Perfect. We come in from this door. On our left, there is a big closet that we don't use that much. Hello. On the floor, we mostly store our bags. So we have some backpacks here and here. This is my Studio Lights case. I'm going to present these beauties to you a little bit later. You'll see they're amazing. This was a mirror that was, where was it? I don't know, we just put it here. On top here, we have this. We thought this could be useful to put some papers or some stuff in there. We haven't used it so far. My paper cutter, love it. This is just if I go back in Montreal and I want something a bit more rigid to put some paintings in, some papers, and then I can just use this. On top here we have plastic sheets if I want to protect my paintings. This is the wood board that I use whenever I do watercolors. I tape them to this board and then it's easy for me to move it. It's not taped on the table, so if I want to work on something else, then I can just put this aside before the painting is finished. So it's very useful. And then here I have some canvases. Oh, and this. I brought my big ruler that I use to cut straight lines with X-Actos on my paper. That's it. When you look at the other side of the room, which is on the left when you come in, you see these two big tables right here. This one is the table that I was using in Montreal with the movable wood top part. I bought it here because, first of all, I didn't know how big the space would be. You don't really have a way to knowing in advance. So I brought this and I thought, worst case scenario, I'm sure this is going to fit anywhere. I can make myself a little art station. But as you can see, I have two tables. So this big table right here, this big desk, was actually downstairs. I think the previous person who lived here had kids, so they were probably using this for homework and stuff like that. But this is not our case because our cat doesn't have homeworks. So we moved this desk upstairs and now I use it. This is a big surface. I have lots of space to work on. But before I show you how I organized, let me just move right here to my easel. It's so pretty. So I put my easel like right when you come in. This is one of the first things you see. I wanted it here because I want to see it every day and it's gonna make me want to use it, you know, because if it's hidden like on the side right there, then I might just forget I have it. I don't want that. I created my first painting on this easel. So beautiful. This was made with oils. I made this based on a plein air sketch that I did in Italy, but I'm going to talk to you about this more in the next video. On my easel, I have this little bag, which I have been using as an art supply bag when I go to craft classes and stuff like that. And on this side, I have my paint blouse. Very useful, especially when you paint with oils, because I have never been able to remove an oil stain from my clothes. Never. I love this easel because you have a nice spot where you can store extra things. This I brought because I am intending on giving these pencils in this case away to maybe kids, or I don't know. We'll see what I do with that, but I don't use them. So I thought surely there are some kids around here who will want them. On here I put my pochade easel. This is to go out and do plein air painting. So far I haven't because winter is starting, but for sure next spring and summer my goal is to do a lot of plein air painting. Stay tuned for that. Now on this table, when I don't use it, I usually put some filming gear that I use a lot. So I have my Gorilla tripod and my phone holder. All very useful stuff. Then let's move on to the desk, but first, the lights. These lights are newer LED lights. I don't know the exact name, it's so long, but I put them in my Amazon storefront so you can have a look. It's gonna be in the description, but you can control them with this little remote. Off, on, beautiful. Now these are off, but when I turn them on, you see you can change the intensity of the light. Both of them right now are at 39% of intensity, so they can be much brighter. I just don't need that. And I can also change the color of the lighting, so I can make the lighting be more yellow or more white. Right now it's at the more white setting, but I could change with this little knob. And you see the number here, the kelvins are going more towards the yellow colors. So I don't know if you can see because my camera is adjusting the color temperature, but it's very useful. It's very nice. I love them. On this side, we have a little charging station. When I don't use it, I can just put this on the floor. But right now I'm charging my camera batteries, so it's right here. But this space is so big that I don't mind. Here I have some beading stuff. So I started doing beading here. This is traditional art, and we have some native teachers here who were so kind to show us their craft and teach us how to do different things with beads. So I put my beading stuff in here. These are some projects that I've made. I'll show them to you in a future video. And on my table, I always like having my sketchbooks, the ones that I'm using the most, so I remind myself of using them. There is a little desk drawer here, but it's not very usable because it comes with this insert. You can't take it off, and it goes farther, much farther. It only opens halfway, so like everything you put in here, it can get lost in the drawer, and yeah, I don't really use this. I am so happy to have a big window. So I just put some stuff here. Sometimes I use these plates that I made myself to put some paint tubes, like here. I have some water, and look at these scissors. I bought them at the craft store, so I use them when I do my beading. They're so pretty. Pencils, paintbrushes, pencils, paintbrushes. We have my paint cart. On top here, we have some paint palettes. This is my gouache palette. This is my watercolor palette. All handmade. Not handmade paints, but handmade palettes. I selected my colors myself and I made my own palettes. This is my beautiful watercolor palette that I love so much. And in this, I store, I think right now it's empty. I'm planning on storing some little pieces of paper, some tiny drawing, tiny paintings. I can put them in here. Now, first drawer is just some random knickknacks. So I can use these to create more palettes. This is always useful to hold my pages in my sketchbooks. Mostly tools. Then here we have more watercolor mixing palettes. That's it. And here we have my watercolor tubes, which I don't use that much because most of my paints are in my palette. But I have the spare tubes and I can always refill my palettes from these tubes. So, then here we have my Neocolor 2. Here we have more tools. So I have my tape. I have some things that I can use when I paint to create some effects. I don't touch this a lot though. And in this last drawer we have my filming gear. So I have some cables, I have my batteries, I have my white balance cards here. Just random tools basically. And that's it. And this is my husband's spot. That's it, the rest is all mine. We would like eventually to put some art on these walls because as you can see, they are pretty bare. So it would be nice eventually to do a gallery wall or something like that. But this is a project for another time. Here shipping is very complicated and we have to think about what we want to do. I hope you like this tour. Obviously this is the first few months, so I'm sure things are going to change eventually. I'm going to decorate a little bit more and it's going to be even more homey and prettier as time goes by. Stay tuned for my next video in which I'm going to show you what I created while I was here. So we'll have some painting, some sketching and some beading. And just a little reminder, if you want to go check out my store, the link is in the description. If you can't support me through my store, but you would still like to support me, you could subscribe, you could give a like and leave a comment below. It's always good for the algorithm. I see a huge difference when people do that. So thank you so much for being here and I'll see you again very soon.